Chips. Hey everyone, it's Bogdan from Ship Studios. We're back today with another tutorial for our Halloween series, and today we're wrapping up the shading for the props. We got quite a few of them left, so let's get on with it. Okay, so back to the playing board. So on the last tutorial we managed to do some props, and on this one I want to get all of those settled. So let's get here to the cemetery first, and we need to make it selectable. So I want to hide those, and let's go to material preview, and from environment we have to go down, and I want to make unselectable the trees, the rocks, the grass, and right now I want to make the clouds also and get into the cemetery items. So let's start with the pumpkin, our favorite. So what I want to do is to select the pumpkin and then invert the selection and separate it from everything else. So let's get the pumpkin solo, and I want to select it now, and we can play around with the textures that we created already and do some color changes. So let's go for the tree trunk. Okay, and for this one, I want to go into edit mode and select the top part. So it's like the tail of the pumpkin, since that one would be dehydrated and wilted. So I want to select just the top of the pumpkin and can select them as rings and the top. Okay, so let me just go bit up and get really close to the pumpkin. It's really hard to get close to the pumpkin right now since it's so small and the map that we are playing with is large. So okay, now it's selectable, and let's press assign. And also we want to create another material, and let's select the tree top, and we want to invert the selection and then press assign. Also, we can duplicate it and we can call this one pumpkin. We can go and change the colors right now. So this one would be like a dark orange. So let's give it some light and select around this point and make it copy and give it here and make this one lighter. Okay, let's go back the pumpkin, and we also have a piece on the bottom of the pumpkin. So it's like the tail end, and we want to select that part also. And let me just get into solid mode and select all of those and these ones also, and they will have the tree trunk texture applied. So let's see how that looks. Let's go to front view and take a look at our pumpkin. Okay, and I want to select this beautiful smile, and this one would have a different texture applied. So keep in mind the small patches that you have from your cut. Okay, so these faces for the eyes too will have the same color with the smile, and we want to take another material. Let's actually, we could create this one right now. So let's go and call it glowing eyes. Okay, let's press assign, and this one we don't need the principal BSDF, we just need an emission shader. So let's take it from here and drag it to the surface, and then we give it a color, so that could work. And let's give it a strength of 10. Let's go to material preview, and voila, now we have a glowing pumpkin. That already looks pretty good. And as you can see, we have some nice details caved in, and we can play around with the shadows. I think I'll go for a darker look since we have to make it look creepy. Maybe a bit of Fresnel also. So something like that. That looks good. And of course, we want to shade it smooth, and that didn't change way too much, just a bit at the top. So we have a piece here, we want to have it like that, and okay. Well, actually the bottom won't be seen, but I'm just a perfectionist, so it is what it is. So right now, let's save first, and we want to press Alt H to unhide everything, and we want to hide everything besides the other pumpkin. But first, let me link the material and the modifier from the first pumpkin. So we actually didn't create the outline, so we need to add the outline here. And let's go to modifiers and add solidify with minus 0.01. So that would be enough. Normals. And then the materials in front, we should go for 3, I think. There's need for one more. Oh, okay. Yeah. So maybe it has too much thickness right now, but I think I enjoyed quite the look of it. Let's see. Let's go 0.05, maybe 8. Okay, that looks pretty good too. So now we can select the two pumpkins and copy the modifiers and link the materials. And as I did for the previous one, we actually have to separate this pumpkin from the other map. So what I basically do is I select the pumpkin, press Alt A and then H to hide them. So I just sped up the process for the second pumpkin because I don't think anybody wants to see me doing the same thing all over again. Okay, that looks pretty good already, and we have to do the same for the third pumpkin also, the small one from the right of the steps. So let's get that beautiful smile going in the eyes, and okay, we are done with this one also. Let's just drag it up a bit. Cool, we did the pumpkins. Okay, so we need to move on, and we want to start working right now on the other parts of the cemetery. So first, let me just go to the particle system, and I really don't like that we have so many trees around here. Sorry, rocks actually. So let's change the number a bit. And the seed, okay, that looks pretty clean right now. I like it much better like that. Cool, so we can get back to what we were doing before. So let me select this stone, but first let's save. And I want to select this stone, and let's reuse the tree top material and duplicate it. Now we want to call this one Tombstones. I know it's a plural, but we'll be using it for many of them, so that's fine. So let's do pretty much the same thing we did with the rock. So we go for dark gray and some light gray. Okay, and take that up to around here. Maybe we can add another one and we can give it like a middle color. So let's see how that works. So let's go for something like that. So we can block a darker part for some parts and make it lighter for the others. We can also change the value around a bit so that the shadow is not that dark anymore. Here we can change the coverage of the shadow. So I like it like this way more since you can get some light in. Also shade smooth. And all right, that looks pretty good already. So we have a nice line going in there for the Fresnel. and it gives a much needed detail for a really low polygon plate. So I like it like that for now. Okay, maybe this amount feels more natural. And change around the roughness. Also, pretty high value since it's a rock. I don't want it to reflect way too much light. You can play around with the value or maybe the saturation. That's up to you. I'm just trying to find a nice balance for those. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now we need to also apply the outlines and the solidify modifier, so it's much faster to add it from here actually. So let's take this amount and do the trick. So right now we have the line going already, but it's actually pretty thin, the line that we have, but that should work. So let's apply the materials to link them and do the same for the modifier. And voila, now we have our tombstones done already. Let's go a bit to the render view and see how they would look with some light. They have a pretty nice look. Okay, it's smooth, all of them, and that's how they will look in the final render. Of course, we still got some work to do with the lights, but that's the main texture that they will have. Okay, let's go back to material preview and we want to play around with the fence. And I think for this one, I'll just take the wilted trees material or the tree trunk one. Let's see which one works better. So this one is the wilted trees. And let's add the outlines also and the solidify modifier. Let's go for the standard value and do the normals and then the materials in front. Okay, that actually looks pretty good. So let me shade it smooth also. And we can copy the materials and the modifiers already. Just like that. Okay, let us save first. And I want to select the map and let's go for the grass particle system. I want to select the grass vertex group and I want to take the grass out of this area since sure we might have some strands of grass around cemetery, but I don't want them to collide with the tombstones and they can stay around the pumpkins and maybe around the dead trees, but not around the tombstones. And I want the same to be for the rocks so that we have a clean look for our cemetery side. Okay, let's go back to object mode and save again. And we already improved a lot our visual. So what I want to do right now is select the stone path that we did in the previous tutorial and I want to apply for all of those. Sorry, let me just select this one also. And there was another one. Oh, there wasn't actually. Are those all the stones that we did? Okay. Oh, no, there was another one. I knew it. Okay, so let me select those. And what I want to do is to link them to an existing rock. So let me just unblock that and select one of them and link the materials and then copy the modifiers. And that's a really fast process. So right now it should be in place. So let's take a look at the stone path that we did. All right, cool. We shaded those also. Oh, we have a hidden cloud. That one escaped us. Okay, let's select those, copy, and then link materials and also shade smooth. Pretty cool. And we are done with the stone path also. So right now we are still left. Let me just shade those smooth also. So now we are left with the stone formation, the cauldron, and the ritual site to work on. But first, let me just modify a bit the tombstones. The shadows are pretty nice already. Okay. So let's save again. And I want right now to get to work on the stone formation. So let me just make all of those selectable since right now they are unselectable. And I want to block the other assets, and I'll maybe leave some out if I want to copy some stuff. So I'll still leave my rocks open. So let me just get here to the materials, and I want to take the tombstones one and I want to duplicate it and call this one pillar stone. And I think we can leave the same colors as they are. Let me just shade that smooth, and it looks pretty good already. That's a pretty fine result. Let me just play around with the shadows because I want more shadow on the pillars themselves. And maybe we can make them a bit darker. Okay, let's apply the outline, and then I want to apply the modifier also. And maybe we can go for something a bit higher for those. Let me just take a look. Okay. So let's go for something like 0.02. Cool. Now we already have a thicker line that defines our stone formations. So we want to select all of those and the first one, and we want to link the materials and copy the modifiers, and they already are shaded. Sure, you can play around if you think that the shadow doesn't look proper, or maybe you can change around the colors too. But I think they have a pretty nice look already. Okay. Now let's get into the middle of the things and select the ritual site. So let's go to materials and then select the rocks. So I don't want to have the same materials for the pillars also. So I went for the rocks one. I duplicate it and call this one ritual site. And I want to change a bit the size of it and also the colors. So let me go for something brighter. Maybe too bright. Okay. And we can move those around a bit also. So this asset would be visible for everyone. So we want to take a bit more work for the detail. Let me move around the shadow, and I think I'll play around with the Fresnel effect also. Okay, I'd like to cover around this area also. Now we have some nice light coming from that side. And you can play around with the value. And maybe we want some softer shadows for this one. Okay, let me select the small elements from the ritual side, and I want first to put on the outline and the solidify modifier -001. Check the normals and take the material offset to 1. Okay, now we have that applied. And now that it's done, I want to select the small details, the small pillars from inside the ritual site. And I want to select all of those. Whoops, the cauldron also. Okay, this one and those two in the back. And now the ritual site, and I want to copy the modifiers and then link the materials also. And the only difference that would be made is the top of each asset that you see here will have a different color, and it will be an emission one, since we want to have some glowing emeralds on top of each of those. Right, let me select all of them, and let me select also and take them up a bit. Alright, now I want to select just one piece and I want to add another material, and we can actually use the one that we used for the pumpkins, so the glowing guys, and then change the color to something like green emerald. And let's go to edit mode, this face and those under it. So we need to select that circle. Okay, and the top one, and get the glowing going. All right, that's good. Now let me just do the same for all the others. You have to do that manually, unfortunately. So I'll see you in a couple of seconds. Okay, now that's out of the way. Let's save and let's go to the cauldron. And I want to select the inside face and I want to delete it. And then I want to select the outer edges again and go to face and grid fill. And I want to subdivide this one. Let's say for 2. Yep, that would be enough. So we want to do the same as we did for the river and take some of those down. Whoops, the radius is huge. So take some of those down and some of them maybe up a bit so that we create something like boiling broth. We want the mesh to look like it's containing some liquid that's boiling around, and the rest we'll do with the materials a bit later. We'll probably start with a water material and then go for something that resembles the spell. So if we have an emerald green for the jewelry, then we could also go for the same color around here for the liquid. We'll see. Okay, so now I've played around with those a bit. Now let me get to the top. And I want to select all of the faces. And now I want to create another material for those. So this one would be water. And I want to assign it. And then I want to invert my selection. And then I want to apply another material. So I think we should go for the rocks one and press assign. And then we can duplicate it and I can call this one Cauldron. Okay, that looks pretty good already, and let's refine that a bit. I want to get the texture out and we'll only use the colors. So let me get that to 1, and it already has a nice shading. So let's go for smooth, and that got even better right now. So let's play around with the shadow. So we want some nice shadows to go on our cauldron. This one would be visible. So let's get also some light going, some brim light. And maybe play around with the value for the shadows to make them look darker. I want to take the roughness down a bit. Okay, that looks pretty good. And let's add the outline also. And of course, we need to add the solidify modifier. Let's get the minus here and normals, then the material offset. All right, that looks good. Now we need to create the water. So let's go here, and what I want for now is, let's take that to the right, and then we want to add a transparent BSDF, and we also use a mix shader, and that would be just one part of the procedure. So we also need to add, after we play with this one around, we want to add a glossy BSDF. So let's change the color to something like a teal. And now I want to duplicate the mix shader and put another one here. And like I said, we want to create a glossy BSDF and then plug that in here. And now it's starting to look like water. So that's a nice texture going on. This one is procedural, as I said earlier. We don't need to use any photo. I can also add here an emission shader, and this emission shader is put here because I want to create a transition between the normal water and, like I said earlier, we want to create the spell and it will have the same color that we have right now for the emeralds. Okay, and I want to give it almost the same color that we have for the emeralds and give it a strength of 10. We can actually take the color from here and use the same one here. All right, that looks really good. And we can play around with the factor, and if it's up to 1, then it's normal water. And if it goes to 0, then it's total spell, well, spell water. So let me just duplicate the mix shader again. And what I'll do right now is I'll create a texture. So let's go for a Voronoi texture and let's plug the distance into the factor. And that way we'll create some nice texture. Let's press Ctrl T with the node wrangler. And we want to create this nice texture and implement it so that the water looks more realistic, even though it's a cartoonish one. So if you go to smooth F1, it's already starting to look really nice. And if you move around the scale or maybe the position of the texture, then you'll have some water that's moving around. So that's the effect that we'll be going for. Let me just check a nice scale. So 4 seems pretty good. And the smoothness, you can play around with it. I'll just leave it up to 1 since I really like this look. And if you play around right now with this part of the mix shader, you can make the water more transparent. And if you play with this part, then you can change from the normal water to the one with the emission shader applied. So I'll recall this water cauldron because we need to use the water shader for the river. That's why I give it another name. So as you can see, it's the same water, but it will just glow up like the emeralds do. And if you take a look, it seems like we modified the glowing eyes directly. So we'll have to change that. I actually want to fix the pumpkins right now because it looks like they have the same shader as do the emeralds. And even though they look pretty damn nice, I'd like to go back to the yellow version. So let's make the pumpkin selectable, and then I want these glowing eyes to be changed back to a yellowish. We have to change the material for the ornaments from the ritual site, so that's pretty easy. Let's duplicate this and call this emeralds. So there's a plural in there. Let's take the color from here and, whoops, not this one, the other one. Let's plug the color in here, and then we can select them all over again. So we need to select all of these ornaments. And the first one, and link materials. Good. Now we fix the pumpkins and it looks really nice. So let's go to layout mode, and this is looking pretty dope right now. So yeah, the props are ready. We are finally done with the props, and that is it for today. On the next tutorial, we'll be starting to shade the map itself. So if you enjoyed, please like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you there. Bye.